importance of it to everything that happens in India has never been stronger.
Yes, it hasn't looked stronger, at least not in the last decade. But Mohit, let's pick up on what Shailesh just left us with in terms of the exits, 8 IPOs and a significant number of M&A as well. Let's talk about the IPOs. I mean, you saw the blockbuster listings for the likes of Zomato, and then we also saw some accidents with the likes of Paytm. What are the lessons to take away as far as what we've seen happen as far as the public market reception and appetite is concerned?
Yeah, I think the part that I draw a lot of energy from is the sheer diversity of the companies that are now going to the public markets. And let me give you a few anecdotes of that. Clearly, someone like Zomato, has got built on the back of the mobile internet revolution, where people from small towns across the country are now discovering, food delivery as a way for them to spend their evenings with their families and so on and so forth. And it's been received with great success and fervor. The one big thing for Zomato that I think all of us should take away from is, much like Reliance many years back attracted a whole set of new investors to the stock markets because they wanted to be associated with companies that they use. In Zomato, in many ways, that's what we saw with the millennials. This was a brand that many young Indians had gotten used to, had depended on, and when it went public, the restaurant owners and their ecosystem, the users of these kinds of products and services, actually stepped up and became investors and shareholders in many of these young tech companies that they just really did not have an opportunity in before. But this represents really an Indian company who has customers in India successfully listing here. And then you have someone like Freshworks, who is an Indian company born right here in India, but has most of its revenues and most of its customers in overseas markets, and had a blockbuster IPO by actually listing overseas in the US markets, which is of course important for them to build awareness with their customer base. So here's an Indian company that succeeds widely in India, and one that actually from India succeeds widely in other markets. Indigo Paints, and most recently this week, Go Colors. Here's a consumer business and consumer brands. These are businesses that were primarily historically built offline that also are very well received in the Indian public markets. Truecaller, it's not even an Indian company. It lists in Sweden, but it's got built on the back of the India opportunity. And so just to sort of take away from all of these different examples, you have Indian companies that will list here and be very successful. You'll have Indian companies that come out of India that will list on global exchanges. You'll have foreign companies that actually list wherever they do, built on the back of what India offers. And it's only because of one thing, Shireen, and this is really the takeaway and what's changed for me, is the adoption, the real adoption by real India of these products and services is unprecedented. We have our e-commerce companies now delivering products to over 5,000 cities and towns across this country, or over 25,000 PIN codes. The sheer depth that these products and services have reached is what's driving, I think, a lot of this public success.
Oh, you're absolutely right on that. We have seen penetration of different kinds of services across the board. But Shailesh, to the point that was being made there by Mohit, and I want to understand a little bit more from you on that. We talked about the opportunities and how the growth in India is driving the move towards the kind of valuations that we have seen for companies like Zomato. But what do we need to be mindful of? Yes, there is opportunity. Yes, there is headroom for growth. But at the same time, the path to profitability is an uncertain and a long one. So how should we put all of this together, especially when we think about valuations, because that could lead to an unsavory experience?
I think you're right. I think companies have to become profitable at a certain point in time. But one of the main changes we've seen in the public markets in India is them willing to take a bet on companies that are not yet profitable and enjoy some of the growth that we have traditionally seen just in the private markets, in the public markets as well. So companies will probably be held to higher standards in the public markets on getting to profitability, and we think they very well will. I think all the companies that have gone public, that have had successful offerings, have shown that they have unit economics that will work. What India offers is the chance of probably the longest growth runway of any major market in the world, of long-term compounding of these companies. So while there might be short-term aberrations to the way the market reacts, we think that The business models are relatively well understood. These companies are fundamentally sound. They're very well positioned competitively. They should be ones that make quite a bit of profit. And while unicorns is a great metric, another metric we think a lot about is the number of companies that we have that have more than $100 million in revenue.
Yeah.
Like more than $100 million in revenue makes you a real company, makes you a real business. It's something of scale. It's something that is very likely to sustain. That number this past year crossed 25 in our India and Southeast Asia portfolio. That the number of companies in the region that are just quite substantial in their industries has grown. And that we think will give them the path to be very profitable over time.
Yes, that's an important point that you make, that we're not just starting up, we're also scaling up, and that is something that the latest NASSCOM report has also shown, and that tells you that there is something real that's going on as far as these companies are concerned. Well, on that note, we'll take a break, but when we return, we continue our conversation with the team at Sequoia on the road ahead.